Picture this. You are down to your last few dollars, feeling desperate, and scrolling through the internet looking for any way to make money fast. Within minutes, you stumble across a guru promising you passive income, financial freedom, and an escape from the 9-to-5 grind, all through one simple system. It feels like a lifeline, but here's the uncomfortable truth. This exact playbook has been running for well over a century, just wearing a different costume each time. Today, we are tracing the entire history of get-rich-quick schemes, from old traveling salesmen peddling fake miracle cures, all the way to modern online gurus and multi-level marketing companies, and breaking down exactly why smart, capable people keep falling for the same trick over and over again. Before we dive in, quick 2-line intro if you are new here. This channel is all about long-term wealth creation, and we truly believe that health is the very first form of wealth. So alongside the money talk, you will also find us covering how to build a stronger, healthier lifestyle. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this one. And if you find real value in it, feel free to subscribe, but only if you actually get something out of what we cover here. No pressure at all. All right, let's get into it. Falling into the guru rabbit hole. This story actually starts with a very personal moment. Someone coming home from a trip with almost nothing left in their bank account after some reckless spending, right around the same time they were losing their passion for a long-term career path they had pursued since childhood. Suddenly, having money stopped being a nice-to-have and became an urgent necessity. So naturally, the next move was heading online and searching for ways to make money fast. That search led straight into a world of online gurus, the kind of personalities who, under any normal circumstance, might come across as a little sleazy, but during a moment of genuine financial desperation, suddenly seemed like exactly the answer needed. Concepts like passive income and being your own boss were presented like an easy, guaranteed solution, and it was incredibly easy to buy into all of it. There was even a growing resentment toward the idea of a traditional 9-to-5 job, as if having a regular job was somehow an admission of personal failure. These gurus were selling one specific dream, the dream of getting rich quickly, dangled out front like a carrot on a stick. Except this particular carrot came in the form of a paid online course. The origins of the snake oil salesman. The phrase snake oil salesman has been floating around in pop culture for a long time now, usually used to describe a dishonest con artist selling a fake remedy. But where did that phrase actually come from? It traces back to a real historical figure who traveled across America selling what he claimed was rattlesnake oil, marketed as a miracle cure for practically every ailment imaginable through large traveling medicine shows. When his product was eventually tested, it turned out to contain no actual snake oil at all. It was completely worthless. From that point forward, the phrase snake oil salesman stuck around in popular culture, symbolizing a traveling grifter peddling fake cures to vulnerable, hopeful crowds. And here's the important part. These kinds of people have existed throughout basically all of human history, wearing different costumes and selling different products depending on the era. But the underlying methods of influence and persuasion have remained almost identical the entire time. The infomercial era, the 80s answer to medicine shows. Fast forward to the 1980s and 90s, and the traveling medicine show effectively got replaced by something new, the infomercial. These were essentially program-length commercials, sometimes running anywhere from 28 minutes all the way up to a full hour, usually airing late at night, often somewhere between 1 in the morning and 6 in the morning. Plenty of infomercials advertised completely legitimate products, sometimes even backed by real celebrities. But this format also attracted a massive wave of questionable products, shady marketing tactics, and personalities eager to exploit late-night viewers. Throughout each broadcast, a toll-free number would flash across the screen, inviting viewers to call in and place their order right then and there, effectively becoming the modern equivalent of the old traveling medicine show. Motivational and personal development products absolutely thrived in this format, and right alongside them came an entire wave of get-rich-quick infomercials. One particularly notable figure from this era proudly self-proclaimed himself the king of infomercials, boasting about generating tens of thousands of dollars a week simply by placing small classified ads in newspapers across the country, and promising that absolutely anyone, regardless of background, income, or location, could replicate that same exact result using his system. The 4 promises pattern. Right here is where a very consistent pattern starts to emerge, one that shows up again and again throughout the entire history of get-rich-quick schemes. These pitches almost always promise four very specific things: that you can get rich, that it can happen quickly, that literally anyone can do it, and that there is a proven, repeatable system that makes it all possible. In this particular infomercial example, several paid programs were sold, each claiming to teach ordinary people how to profit from running small classified newspaper ads. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The overwhelming majority of people who purchased these programs were never actually able to generate anywhere near the kind of income being promised, because profiting from classified ads was nowhere near as simple as it was being marketed to be. And consider the obvious detail hiding in plain sight. The person selling these programs was making his real money from selling the programs themselves, not from the classified ad method he claimed to be teaching. This is not to say that a real business built around something like classified ads or real estate cannot work at all. It absolutely can. The actual problem lies specifically in how these particular programs were being marketed, painting an unrealistic picture that stood in stark contrast to the actual difficulty of achieving those results. Modern internet gurus repackaging the same old formula. Looking back at modern internet gurus with this historical context in mind, the exact same pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Take a legitimate business model like dropshipping, for example, a completely real way to run an online store. The actual scheme is not the business model itself. It is how that business model gets packaged and marketed, dressed up to sound like an effortless side gig anyone can pick up in their spare time, promising an extra $1,000 a month for essentially doing nothing at all, even appealing directly to the most average, inexperienced person watching. The marketing tactics behind the pitch. Once that initial hook lands, standard marketing techniques get layered on top to further influence the audience. Social proof is one of the most common tactics used here, leaning heavily on testimonials from ordinary, relatable people or trusted authority figures, all claiming the exact same program completely transformed their financial situation. These testimonials are almost always paired with an emotional backstory, describing how the person went from being broke to becoming financially successful, carefully crafted to resonate as closely as possible with whatever target audience is being pitched. In a lot of cases, that same vulnerability, feeling desperate for money, wanting to make family proud, feeling like a failure for working a regular job, is exactly what makes a person susceptible to falling into this world in the first place, all while truly believing they had simply figured something out that everyone else around them was too blind to see. The Vema story, an energy drink front for a pyramid scheme. Between roughly 2012 and 2014, a particular energy drink started spreading rapidly across college campuses throughout the United States. On the surface, it was marketed as a healthier alternative to typical energy drinks, but underneath that surface, it was actually a front for something considerably darker. This drink was produced by a multi-level marketing company that recruited distributors to sell its products, with each distributor earning a commission not just from their own personal sales, but also from the sales made by anyone they successfully recruited underneath them. In reality, this company was never really focused on selling the actual drink at all. Its true focus was on constantly recruiting new distributors. Students on these college campuses were approached by friends about a supposed business opportunity, which usually led to some kind of meeting or presentation, where the actual pitch became clear. This was never really about selling an energy drink, it was about selling an enticing dream of unlimited income potential, deliberately targeting young people between their teens and mid-20s, still figuring out their direction in life, often during periods of genuine uncertainty about their future. Why pyramid schemes mathematically collapse? This particular company operated as a pyramid scheme, a specific category of get-rich-quick scheme built around aggressive recruitment. Distributors were explicitly told that the real money came from recruiting additional distributors, and those new recruits were then encouraged to repeat that exact same recruiting behavior. Here is the simple math that exposes the entire structure. If one person recruits 5 people, and each of those 5 people recruits 5 more people, that pattern can only continue for about 14 levels before you would need more people than currently exist on the entire planet. In this kind of structure, only the very earliest participants ever have a realistic chance of making real money, while the overwhelming majority of later participants end up losing money instead. And realistically, by the time you personally hear about any specific opportunity like this, you are almost always already too late to benefit from it. In this particular case, nearly 90% of recruits ended up earning less than $4,000 a year. And that figure does not even account for the money they had already spent purchasing the product itself in the first place. In reality, the vast majority of young recruits involved in this scheme were actively losing money. The cult-like community element. This particular scheme operated in a way that closely resembled a cult, specifically designed to keep recruits emotionally locked inside the organization. Some young participants even dropped out of college entirely, distanced themselves from friends and family members who raised concerns, and completely rebuilt their social media presence around promoting the company. That strong cult-like community element plays a massive role in why people continue participating even when the actual results clearly are not there. Being surrounded by an entire circle of people all repeating the same messaging tends to create a powerful echo chamber effect. And this particular company is really just one example among countless multi-level marketing companies still operating today, nearly all of them following a remarkably similar underlying pattern, relying heavily on recruitment, wildly over-promising potential results, and deliberately building a tight-knit sense of community around the entire scheme. When all of your closest friends are already deeply involved in the exact same scheme, believing in the exact same promises you do, it becomes significantly harder to walk away, since there are often very real social consequences attached to leaving. The two psychological tactics that keep you trapped. Looking back at this entire pattern, there are typically two critical psychological elements at play, designed specifically to keep someone locked inside a scheme like this. The first is self-blame, deliberately making you feel like any lack of success must be entirely your own fault, despite the scheme's wildly exaggerated original promises. No matter how hard you personally work, you get told that you are simply doing something wrong, which naturally starts to chip away at your self-confidence over time. Some of these organizations even lean heavily on pseudoscientific ideas like the law of attraction, subtly reinforcing the belief that any lack of success must be a personal failing, conveniently ignoring the fact that the entire system was mathematically designed to fail for the vast majority of participants from the very start. The second tactic, though not always present in every single case, involves deliberately building an insulated community around the scheme, one that actively discourages listening to any outside criticism and encourages members to distance themselves from anyone not directly involved. There is nothing inherently wrong with belonging to a strong community, but the moment that community specifically works to cut you off from outside opinions or legitimate criticism, that becomes a serious warning sign. This exact tactic, tightly controlling the flow of information members receive, and immediately discrediting any outside opinion as coming from haters or so-called dream stealers, is precisely what makes cult-like brainwashing so effective in the first place. Telling legitimate businesses apart from scams. Here is where things get a little more nuanced though, because plenty of these same individual elements also show up within completely legitimate products, businesses, and brands. Sometimes spotting an obvious get-rich-quick scam is fairly easy, especially once you understand the common rhetoric and promises these schemes tend to repeat. Other times, the line is honestly harder to see clearly, since not everyone selling a course or program out there is running a get-rich-quick scheme. A useful framework for telling the difference starts with honestly examining the expectations being presented. Do they seem realistic? Next, look closely at the actual person or company behind the offer. Does a quick search reveal any incriminating information, consistent poor reviews, or obvious red flags? Then pay close attention to whether the marketing leans on social proof, artificial scarcity, or urgency in a dishonest way. Is that live webinar actually pre-recorded? Is that supposedly limited time offer really ever going to expire? Or does that countdown timer conveniently reset every single time? Simply learning to recognize these common marketing techniques helps pull you out of an easily influenced emotional state and brings clear awareness to the fact that you are actively being sold to in that exact moment. The final lesson, personal responsibility. There is one last important lesson buried underneath this entire journey, one centered around personal responsibility. Getting rich quickly is technically possible in certain rare cases. Someone might win the lottery or build a company that eventually sells for a fortune. But winning the lottery is purely down to luck, while building something of genuine lasting value is far from easy. If a product or service ever promises to make that process easy, that alone should be treated as the single biggest red flag of all. Looking back across the entire history of these schemes, and realizing just how consistently people across every single generation have fallen for the exact same underlying pattern, really drives home one simple truth. Our brains are naturally wired with plenty of built-in biases, ones that can trip up literally anyone if they are not paying close attention. Recognizing these recurring patterns is an important first step in protecting yourself, but there is one final piece required as well: actively stepping away from simply fantasizing about passive income or an easy laptop lifestyle, and instead truly committing to doing real, meaningful work, since staying stuck in that fantasy mindset is exactly what makes a person vulnerable to this kind of influence in the first place. Summary: from traveling snake oil salesmen in the 1800s, to late-night infomercial kings in the 1980s, to modern online gurus and multi-level marketing schemes recruiting young people on college campuses, get-rich-quick schemes have always followed the exact same underlying formula: promise wealth, promise speed, promise that anyone can do it, and promise a simple system to make it happen. Along the way, these schemes lean heavily on emotional vulnerability, manufactured social proof, cult-like communities, and a deliberate strategy of making victims blame themselves rather than the scheme itself. The real defense against falling for any of this comes down to recognizing these recurring patterns, honestly evaluating the realistic expectations behind any opportunity, and ultimately taking personal responsibility by choosing consistent, genuine effort over the tempting fantasy of an easy shortcut to wealth. Thank you so much for sticking with us through this entire deep dive. If you found real value in it, feel free to subscribe so you catch our next video. And if you have any thoughts on this one, drop them in the comments below. We do read through them. Until next time, take care and keep building.